Dear Rentals Club members, today in our VITUR Summit series, I'm with Pierre Becerril, he's the CEO of Transparent Intelligence, and with Matt Loney, he's the CEO of Xplorie. You'll be lucky if you attend the VITUR Summit because you will be able to meet these two great industry members. Without further ado, let's hear about them. Let's hear, if you don't know the business, what the business is, what they'll be doing in VITUR, and let's talk about trends. What have they seen in the market that you should know about? Pierre, let's get started with you. How are you?
Hey, Thibault, thanks for having me. Hey, Matt, good to reconnect after so long.
Great to see you, Pierre. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. No more Zoom calls.
No more Zoom calls, absolutely. Can't wait.
So bear with this last Zoom call, please, gentlemen. So Pierre, if you as I said, you're part of the industry, you're obviously one of the big providers of data for our industry. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself or the company, please? Sure
thing. So, I started a business in 2016 with the idea that, this industry was growing very fast and it needed a reference or point to look at when, they had complicated business questions to answer. Like, many of the other industries have a reference data provider. So that's why we created Transparent with the idea of informing decision. So that can be for your strategy, for your revenue management, for marketing, pretty much anything you can answer, with data, we've got an answer for that. So we built the business, like I said, what was it? Close to 6 years now. We're 30 people. Our base is between the US and Spain. So it's actually a good call here because we're representing, VITUR in the south of Spain, and then we've got Matt coming all the way from the US. So, yeah, excited to be of the event and looking forward to meet everybody again. All right. And I didn't mention that, but of course, VITUR Summit is taking place in October 28th and 29th in Malaga, Spain. Quite important. So obviously, you playing home and with the home team here, but Matt, you're flying all the way because people may not know that, but international travel has opened for some people and planes do fly. So you're flying all the way to Spain for that. So tell us more about what the company does, because it may not be obvious to everyone at VITUR. It's a very interesting model.
It is, and we are currently. It's a very timely conference for Xplorie. We've kind of targeted 2022 for some international expansion. Initially targeting the UK, Spain, and a third yet to be determined country. We've got a couple that we're looking at. But yeah, Xplorie serves as the leading guest experience solution provider in the US, where, obviously our market is much smaller, but we have about 14,000 vacation rentals, about 140 professional property managers here in the US that utilize Xplorie's solutions, which really range everything from voice assistance with on-demand concierge service, a partnership that we've developed with Amazon, and actually will be featured at the Apartment of the Future exhibit, which we're really excited about, alongside of a couple other great technology companies there at VITUR. So we're excited to get over there. I'm going to lean on Pierre. We've known each other. We were just talking before we started since 2016. Really this is an opportunity for us to just really start to understand the short-term holiday rental market, in Spain, meet some of the players, but more than anything, just to get out and get the chance to chat with people that either we haven't seen in a long time or you've been staring at through glass, and we're very excited about it.
And Matt, you mentioned the Apartment of the Future, and I think it's something quite incredible that Carlos and the VITUR Summit team have done, right? It's trying to have sort of a new format or new things that attendees can discover. So can you maybe tell us a bit, about the Apartment of the Future and how else Xplorie will be visible at the conference?
Yeah, so the Apartment of the Future is kind of exactly what it sounds like. And when I heard about it, Carlos had reached out to me. I was kind of surprised that it seems so obvious, yet no one's, to the best of my knowledge, I've never been at a conference who's really done, but it is difficult sometimes to see some of this tech at a booth and picture how it works, whether it's the locks. I know Samsung's going to be there with some of their new televisions. And then I think Xplorie, as far as the voice assistant and it kind of the smart home and where it's headed. And so, you know, being able to see it in an apartment, you know, kind of exhibit and how it all kind of fits, I think is going to be really exciting and will generate a lot of interest. You know, for Xplore, we're excited. We've had the opportunity. So I think we're gonna, Carlos has asked us to give a 15-minute presentation on Xplorie and some of our guest experience solutions. But probably the things I'm excited about most are the two panels. I'm getting a chance to host a panel, which is, you know, I call, you know, it's kind of, you know, authenticity versus standardization, right? And I think, which is fascinating as we see a lot of consolidation in this industry. You know, obviously the need, especially by operators, I think, to gain some standardization is important to make it scalable. But I also think you have to ask yourself the question, is a big piece of our competitive advantage tied to the authenticity of these properties and how much of that are we willing to give up? And so we're going to chat about that. And then I get to sit on a panel on smart home and, you know, with some other players in that space that are, they're doing some really good things, I think, that can increase some of the operational efficiency as our industry scales. So we've got, it's a busy schedule. The last I will say is where I'm also showing up as a media partner. We've got the Guest X podcast, Brian O'Malley, my partner, and I. It's all about guest experience. So we'll be there doing interviews, grabbing anybody we can. So if you see us standing around with a mic, please come over and let us ask you a few questions. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, Tybo, right. I think you might go on mute.
Right.
Exactly.
No more Zoom calls. No more Zoom calls.
Exactly. If you see somebody with a mic, make sure that he's not on mute or this person not on mute, because that's right. Happening. All right. So Pierre, how about you? I mean, obviously data is super important, but you and your team will be physically there as well. So what to expect with Transparent, the VITUR Summit?
All right, so we'll have a booth. A few of my colleagues, most likely around to see that some of you may know already, will be there with me. And look, we'll also be attending a couple of the talks. We're doing one in the morning about revenue management and data. There's interesting new trends, you know, happening in revenue management. So we'll be probably discussing about that. And then on the afternoon of the first day, we'll also have another talk about marketing and data. So I'll present a more high-level view of what's going on in the industry and make a small recap of, you know, where we are so far in terms of recovery and a bit of what's ahead of us from what we can see on the books. So be doing a bit of a weather forecasting for our industry over there. And obviously, you know, I'll be around, so I'll be, you know, super excited to have a off the side, you know, conversation with everybody, and why not with you as well. I think with Brian, I've actually something scheduled to be on your podcast as well, Matt. So be happy to chat and reconnect them.
You talked about some trends that you're presenting, Pierre. Just curious, could you share just one with us as a preview, please?
Right. Well, look, I mean, since this is going to be in Spain, I think that there's one interesting thing that we've seen is obviously last year was a very hectic moment, right? Where locally a lot of the markets were shut down. You couldn't travel from a market to another, or even from a city to another. Most of the time, you know, most of the places were closed. So if we look into what's going on this year, is that basically, you know, lead time has just drastically changed versus last year, and a lot of the inventory hasn't adjusted for that. So what this means is basically there are much more reservations for the end of the year already than there were last year for the same period. And we see that some of the rates haven't yet adjusted for that, right? Because they're still looking at previous year. So make sure you look into your market. You know, I've got a few examples, we'll show that, but basically make sure you look into your market. If you guys have more reservation than last year, make sure you adjust your rate for the last quarter. Otherwise, you may leave a bit of money on the table, right? So we got to get back at thinking a bit ahead and not only of these last minute reservations.
That's a very interesting trend. Thanks for sharing this. It's something actually I've seen as well in the Caribbean. It's like, it's it's booked up. It's booked up for Christmas and New Year's Eve. It's crazy. It's way earlier than usual. And yeah, so it's interesting to hear it's happening as well in Spain, for example. Interesting to see. Matt, how about you? Is there like one trend that people should know about that you would be willing to share with us today?
Yeah, I think an overarching trend that it's already started, it's going to continue to gain speed. And Pierre is on, I think, the leading edge of this with some of the the yield management. But I think the push for increased profitability, we've seen, I think, a good increase in top line with the surge of travel coming out of the pandemic. I think the larger operators understand that's going to settle at some point. And so, I think a couple of trends you're seeing there are just increased operational efficiencies, tech that can help them, whether it is some of the locks, the revenue management, right, where you're not having to have people touch every aspect of this business. And, one that probably hasn't quite started, but I think is along the same lines you're going to see is in the consolidation of the tech stack. There's got to be some consolidation. We're lucky enough, Pierre and I were talking, the US has had quite a few conferences this year. Again, I think we're both brave and stupid in the US, and most people just kind of recognize that and watch us do our thing. But one of the things in walking the floor at the VRMA this year was just the number of vendors and the number of problems that are being attacked from but that are really, they're really specific problems. And I think there's going to have to be some consolidation of some really quality tech so that it can become operationally efficient from a bottom line standpoint for these operators. They just can't, you can't have that many platforms that you're running your operations on.
All right. So we shall be expecting some kind of roll up of yet another one, because there's quite a few of these companies growing in the background of the industry right now. Super interesting, and just like fear of missing out. I will not be able to attend VITUR Summit and then hear and talk with you guys, because it sounds very interesting. Would love to hear more. Yuvika from Rental Scale Up will be there. I'm sure she'll be able to hear more about this. So thank you so much, Pierre and Matt, for taking the time today. Again, you will be at VITUR Summit. It's in Malaga, Spain, October 28, 29. You can still, book. You could actually book planes to go there, and there's still tickets for sale. And I really encourage everybody to attend if they can. Thank you, gentlemen.